So it looks like Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua is going to happen near the end of this year, with the mega fight rumored to happen in Saudi Arabia. However, something is off with this fight, and that is that it won't even be close. Both of these guys are coming off essentially losses from what is argued the best heavyweights of our era, Tyson Fury and Usyk, with some intermediary fights in between, so it seems like the perfect matchup, right? Not necessarily. There is one key crucial difference between AJ and Deontay. And that is that Deontay would absolutely smoke AJ. I think it's fair to say when we're talking about fighters, the most accurate way to judge them is by their last fight's performance. Not what they did years ago, not what happened 10 fights ago, but what happened in their last fight. How did they look? That is the most accurate representation of what they are at right now. So AJ beats Franklin, who isn't that great a prospect, in a very close fight. Like, it was actually a competitive fight. He eked out a decision win against Jermaine Franklin. Honestly, really didn't show up. In fact, it was very odd watching that fight. Like, the stadium was pretty much empty, which is never something you would associate for AJ, but it looks like a lot of this mainstream normie boxing fan hype has really died down around AJ. So not impressive, right? Like, we saw what happened with AJ and Jermaine Franklin. Nothing to write home about, nothing impressive at all. A lot of people expected a lot more from AJ, and I think it's fair to say, watching that fight, that the AJ that we saw against Vladimir Klitschko isn't there anymore. That's a thing of the past. That's a figment of your imagination now. You really cannot compare the AJ that fought against Klitschko when he was young, hungry, and coming up with the one that fought Jermaine Franklin. Not even close. A lot of people have been saying that his wind has been taken out of his sails after the loss against Ruiz, and I think that definitely started it, but it's also the back-to-back losses against Usyk that I think really destroyed the man mentally. Mentally, as a fighter, it's a lot easier to swallow a loss to a knockout from a underdog because it's heavyweight boxing. That's what everyone says. So if you get knocked out, you can just rationalize this in your head and say, oh, well, if I just would have zigged when I should have zagged, I wouldn't have got hit, and I would have won that fight. It's a lucky punch, basically. However, when you lose to a points decision and just get technically beaten, fair and square, no BS, no lucky punch, no, you just got outpunched and outboxed. That's a lot harder to swallow, and he definitely tried his best in those two fights against Usyk and still came up short. That is a lot more mentally devastating, in my opinion, than just getting knocked out by a freak punch. So yeah, I don't think the AJ we have now is the same as what we had before. Now, on the other hand, if we look at Deontay's last fight, yeah, he lost against Tyson Fury, the best heavyweight as of now, but in his fight after that against Helenius, he knocked him out with essentially a jab. Like, he literally just bopped him on the nose and he like dropped down like he got shot by a sniper. The guy's power is still there. It's the same old Deontay, right? If anything, I think Deontay's gotten better. Considering he started boxing real late, I believe he started when he was 21, he has actually gotten better and more skilled at boxing, which a lot of people criticize him for. In his last fight against Helenius, he showed some pretty good boxing skill. I would say even in the fight against Tyson Fury, the third fight, at least for the first round, he was outboxing him, which is not something you would ever expect from Deontay. But yeah, I think Deontay is actually getting better, despite his devastating losses to Fury. But just compare. AJ beat a heavyweight prospect, eking out a points victory, which was a very close and competitive fight. Deontay knocked a prospect out with essentially a jab. Let's just call a spade a spade. AJ is not even in the same league as Deontay. Andy Ruiz knocked out Anthony Joshua. Usyk almost knocked out Anthony Joshua. In the first fight, it looked like he was actually going to knock AJ out, but then the round ended. I think if there was like another round or like another minute in that, AJ would be flat on his back. So if a short heavyweight, nowhere near the same reach as Deontay, can knock AJ out, and a very technical point-scoring amateur boxer from Ukraine can also almost knock AJ out, what do you think the hardest puncher in the heavyweight division is going to do? It's going to be a massacre. When we saw AJ fight his rematch against Ruiz, we saw him take a different tactic. Like, he was playing extremely safe, fighting on the outside and just getting his jab off, and that's how we got a points victory over Ruiz. A lot of fans didn't like to see it. It wasn't the most exciting fight from a casual perspective, but he got the W and he played the game plan correctly. That's how you beat a guy that you have a way bigger reach advantage over. But you can't do that against Deontay. Deontay Wilder has a bigger reach than AJ, and he punches way harder than Ruiz. Just do the math. Like, we know what's gonna happen here. Like, this is not gonna be a competitive fight, even though promoters and Eddie Hearn is going to try and sell it as like some amazing mega fight. No, this is going to be a one-sided massacre. And I think a lot of people like really need to come to terms with just how overhyped AJ was. The guy had one shining moment, which was his victory against Vladimir Klitschko, who was coming off a loss against Fury, but nevertheless, like, he still beat Vladimir Klitschko. That's a big deal, even if it was at the tail end of the Klitschko era. But the guy has just been so overhyped by the British media. If you are not from Britain, it's really hard for non-British people to understand, but the amount the media was blowing AJ is just, it's hard to even describe. The guy's ego was being fluffed so much in Britain. It was like the trendy thing to do to be a fan of AJ. He was in like commercials and like daytime TV and like doing talk show hosts. The reason why the British media loved him so much is because he's like a handsome guy. He looks like he's supposed to be a heavyweight boxer. He's also got this roadman to nice guy story that they're trying to push. So a lot of like normies that don't really know much about boxing get into it and they like say, oh, AJ's so amazing, he's so great, he's so great. When people that know boxing look at a guy like Tyson Fury or Usyk and they say, yeah, that's a legit heavyweight. Even though they don't look as good as AJ, AJ has been absolutely coddled. The microcosm of this is during the Usyk fight when his corner is saying, brilliant AJ, brilliant, when he's getting his ass kicked. The guy just lives in a bubble, and it's high time that we just look at AJ through a objective lens. I remember there was a clip of some meet and greet that they had Mayweather and AJ. Loads of people were taking pictures with AJ and not Mayweather, which is just bonkers to think about. Mayweather has 100 times the accomplishments in boxing compared to AJ, yet people wanted to take a photo with AJ. It really just shows the normie demographic that AJ appeals to. For those that didn't live in Britain, Tyson Fury was actually slated in the mainstream corporate media. Like, he was completely lambasted and insulted and had his name tarnished in the media.
You've said things in the past which people have found abhorrent. They've accused you of they've accused you of homophobia. No comment, don't even go there.
He wasn't coddled at all. Like, he was vilified by the media up until recently, so that kind of toughened him up. On the other hand, AJ's living some comfy life where everybody's blowing him and like fluffing up his ego, and yeah, that makes you soft. I'm sorry, it does. And especially coming off these losses, oh man, Deontay is looking for his head. Like, he is going to absolutely demolish him. If this fight does happen, this is basically the last big payday of AJ. We saw with the empty seats in the arena against Jermaine Franklin that AJ's stock has gone down quite tremendously. Like, the normie demographic is very fleeting in their attention. I don't see any way that Deontay doesn't knock out AJ. One-sided, completely different level. Well guys, this is Thinking Boxing signing out. Drop a like and sub for more.